Okay, guys, we are a couple minutes past the hour, so we're going to get going. So welcome everyone to this webinar, and thank you for joining us today. I know you're all busy people, so thanks for taking the time to join us for the next 30 minutes or so. I'm John Oliver, and I'm joined by my colleague Faisal Akhtar. We're from the customer team at NC Squared, and we'll be your hosts for today's webinar. A bit of housekeeping first. This is a one-way only webinar, so we're the only ones on camera and audio, including any recording. If you'd like to ask any questions, please do so using the chat or the question panel, which some of you have already found. We've also got a couple of quick polls for you, so when they pop up, please just vote by clicking the answer that appeals to you most. There's no right or wrong answers, and I promise there's no trick questions. So, to today's agenda. Very shortly, I'll be handing over to Faisal, who'll take you on a whistle-stop tour of the new features in our latest release. We'll have some time after that for some questions, so again, do pop them in the chat as you think of them, and we'll answer them at the end. Finally, we'll wrap up with some next steps and takeaways for you. And before we jump into the features in detail, just a recap on why we're here today. So the latest version of Distribution Engine by NC Squared is called Impala. It was released on the 15th of November, so you may already be using it. The upgrade is seamless and preserves all of your configuration and settings. It's available on the App Exchange already, and it's available to install at no additional cost to our customers. So you can choose when to update, but please remember we will start to push this to customers from the week of January the 15th. So now I'll hand you over to my colleague Faisal, who'll take you through some of the new features in Distribution Engine. Faisal.
Thank you, John, and hello, everybody. Okay, so what's in our new release? So we're continuing with our reskin of the application in this release. So you'll remember in Hummingbird, we redesigned the distribution teams page to give it a fresh new look and feel. This time we've updated the availability pages. So the out of office pages where people set individual holidays for team members, the holiday page where people set regional holidays, for example, Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year, as well as the shift list page. So these have been redesigned and are now in line with the look and feel of distribution teams pages. We've also done a few enhancements which hopefully improve people's quality of life on these pages. So out of office can now be assigned to multiple users at once. Previously, you had to make an out of office entry for one person, and then for the next person if they had the same day off. Once you've created them, they're not linked in any way, so it's just a quicker way to create an out of office where it exists across multiple users. We now also have holidays that span multiple days. So previously you had to add them individually. Shift list was previously under the teams pages. We've now brought this out to a higher level. So let's have a look at the first new feature, which is the shift planner. So the shift planner allows team managers to assign hours to their team members. So for each team, you can define up to 12 weeks of scheduled shift changes for each team member that's in that team. And this can be either defined shifts or team hours. In addition, we'll show 4 weeks of history in case you need to refer back to something in the short-term history. And Shift Planner is available for each team individually, as everyone's hours within a team will differ. For example, if someone was part of 2 teams, they could have different hours for each. So the Shift Planner is very much an opt-in option for each team. So let's show you this in action. So let's have a look at this. We go into our team, we go into distribution hours, then team member hours. Here we can see each team member down here on the left and the shifts that they're currently on. If we want to change this in a couple of weeks, we simply click and see, and then put them on the East Coast early morning shift, confirm the hours, click away, and we're done. This then also applies those changes into the future, and if we want to change that again, we can click again. If we want to see the history, we can scroll back, and there'll be no history before you enable the shift planner because there's nothing to show. And you can make multiple adjustments and save. Just click the save button every so often or at the end. Just to make you aware, the choice is to use either shift planner or team member hours, as your shift schedule isn't retained when you switch back to team member hours. This feature should give you a huge benefit, as it was something that managers or admins previously needed to do at the start of each week. Now it allows forward planning up to 3 months in advance. So next up, we have team manager permissions. So we found a lot of our customers have someone taking care of the administrative or setup side of things, and other people doing the management side, like toggling team members on or off, or making sure they're on the right shift. So where you have managers of sales or service teams who do the day-to-day running of their teams, they want the ability to do this in DE, but shouldn't get access to anything scary or anything that they don't understand, or be able to change how the system works. So previously we had the system manager permission, which was kind of like an admin light. But what we've introduced now is the team manager permission set. So for team managers who want a very limited lockdown view of the product on a team by team basis, you can now assign a manager to that team who must have this new permission set, and that manager gets a limited view of that team. So the permission set is assigned in the usual way within Salesforce, and within the team settings tab in DE, you can specify which manager or managers have access to that team. So we've introduced the idea of vision and scope, so you can give managers the access to just the teams they need to manage. So within those teams, their permissions are different too. They have no access to distributors, no access to any of the admin settings, and they are very much limited and focused on doing their day-to-day job. Now, let's have a look at a demonstration. So let's show you this. I've logged in as someone with a team manager permission set. It will only show the teams that they're managing, so teams that I'm not a manager of will be hidden from me. If we go into a team, this vertical navigation here is now very much limited. We can see the Home tab. You can see the distributors, but you can't get to them. You can go into your team members and you can toggle them on or off. You can also remove them, and you can add new team members. You can adjust people's weighting and caps, and you can change the hours people work. Anything that could potentially break how the distribution works beyond turning your team off has been hidden. Outside of distribution teams, we've also hidden access to distribution settings, the console, and within distribution tags, for example, they will only be able to see people who are assigned to teams that they manage. And that's the same for availability, including out of office entries, distribution logs, and dashboards. So the idea is to restrict what managers can see, to keep them focused, and let an administrator take care of the rest. Okay, and now back to John for a poll.
Thanks, Faisal. As Faisal said, now it's time for our first poll, so get ready with your voting fingers. Here comes the question on screen, and this one is really to gauge how you envisage dividing the tasks between admins and team managers now that we've got this new permission set. So I'll read it for you, and for those watching the recording, feel free to answer in the Q&A if you don't see the live poll. Okay, so the question is, now there's a dedicated permission set for team managers, what tasks will you or your team managers benefit from the most? And the options are shift planner, team availability and distribution hours, team level weighting and capping, all of the above, or perhaps none of the above. So I'll give it around 15 more seconds just to get those last few votes in. So you can see it's nip and tuck at the top. It's flipping between a couple of the options. So we'll close this in 5, 3, 2, 1, and we're done. So interesting results there. It's good to see that quite a lot of you will be looking forward to letting your team managers manage the availability of their teams. That's the clear winner. Second up is the team level weighting and capping, perhaps not quite as often tweaked, and a little bit of support of the new shift planner there as well. But really good, a third of you going for all of the above, which is good to see. So I will now hand back to Faisal to take you through some more new features.
Thank you, John. So next, I'd like to talk about Object Sync. So Object Sync allows you to synchronize child objects when you assign the parent object. So any child object with a lookup to the distribution object can be assigned the same owner as the parent object. So for example, if you're assigning accounts, you might then assign opportunities or tasks to the same owner as the parent without the need for a separate distribution or post-assignment process or flow. So the way we've set this up is you define actions at an org level, which determine which objects will be synchronized, and that is then enabled on a team-by-team basis. Now, let's see this in action within the UI. So let's show you this. In this case, we're distributing accounts, but this will also work for other parent, child, or related object types. In our example, we might also want to update any opportunities within that account when we assign. So what we do is set up an action via the new Distribution Sync tab. You define the object you are assigning with DE, and then choose the child or related object. So in this case, it's opportunities. And then you can optionally define whether you have a filter on the child object, which determines whether it gets synced or not. So if we were to assign an account, then any opportunity where the type is new business will also be assigned the same owner as that account. So this feature is enabled and disabled under the Post Assignment tab. We go to Object Sync, and for each team that you enable Object Sync, you can see what will happen. In this case, if we were to turn this on, the example that we've just walked through will occur. So we enable this, and it will then run hourly and not straight away. So keep that in mind. So this will allow you to bring your whole assignment process into DE and keep everything synchronized within the app. It may well simplify your setup, removing the need for more process builder or flow steps, or indeed third-party apps. And to finish with, let's talk about our new export-import feature. So this is an administrative feature which allows import and export of teams and tag collections. So a potential issue some of our customers have is bringing across DE configuration from a sandbox into a production environment, or migrating between orgs in general. So this is a first step along the way to bringing everything across. So the way it works is you'll go into your distribution settings tab, click on the link for export import, and you'll either define one team or up to 10 tag collections that you want to create as an export. This will create a JSON file that you can download to your local machine. Next, you would head across to your other org, go to the distribution settings screen again, and select that file as an import. It will tell you what's going to come across, as well as any problems or conflicts that might happen. If potential errors are detected, for example, a team member doesn't exist in that org, you can go and resolve those before coming back to start the import. So effectively, you'll be taking your team as it's currently set up in your or your tag collection from one org to another without too much manual intervention. So this feature should really save time and effort where people need help bringing setups across from sandbox to production environments during testing or org migrations. So that concludes my run through of the new features in our latest release.
Thanks very much, Faisal. An excellent overview of the new features in Impala. I'm sure you'll all agree. So to the questions, and I can see that there have been quite a few coming in during the demo. So we've got a few minutes to answer some of these now. And I've got our head of product and engineering in the background, making sure I give the right answers for those tricky ones. So thanks, Charlie and Simon. If we don't get to your questions on the broadcast, we will still try to answer them afterwards. So again, if you want to pop something in the chat or the Q&A, we'll get to it as best we can. So first question came in. Will the object sync, I think we're talking about, be available for custom objects? So I've just been talking to our product manager on this one while we're broadcasting. Custom objects aren't included in the current iteration of Object Sync, but it's something that we can investigate in the future. But no firm plans for it at this time. Got one more question. If possible, can we have a demo of import and export? Absolutely. If anyone would like some more information on any of the features, then do please get in contact. As always, we're here to help our customers in whatever way we can. So if you want to have a deeper look into something, and set it up in your org, we can assist with that. Got a couple that are not quite questions, but they're saying thank you for the improvements. So thank you for our customers. It's really nice to hear the feedback, and a shout out to Faisal for a great demonstration. Let me just look, see if there's any more questions. Oh, here's one. How do I update to Impala now? So Faisal, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, sure, John. So it's pretty much a seamless process when it comes to sort of upgrading. So all you need to do is head over to the App Exchange, our App Exchange listing, and download the latest release. Once you've upgraded, all of your settings will remain in place, and you're pretty much ready to go.
Excellent. Thank you, Faisal. And we'll just give it a couple of seconds to see if there's any more questions. Here we go. Another question on import export. Does the import and export have the flexibility to select what we want to import or export? So we'll just check that. And while we check that, I'm just checking to see if there's any more. Yep, so someone just asking the same question about Object Sync. we'll just check on that other one. There was one other question I can see coming in about the team manager permission role. So this was, is it set up within Distribution Engine or is it set up within Salesforce itself? Faisal, can you take that one?
Yeah, no problem. So yeah, the team manager permission needs to be set up in the usual way within Salesforce. So managed package license is required for users to have access to the DE tabs and fields. Then any user who needs access to the functionality of DE will need a permission set. Once that's done, you can then assign team managers within the settings for each team. So yeah, primarily within Salesforce, and then select who's going to be managing within Distribution Engine itself.
Excellent. Thank you, Faisal. So just rolling back to the question around import and export. So the question was, is there any sort of selection ability when you import a team? So you do one team at a time or up to 10 tag collections. So you can select which tag collections, but within a team, it's all or nothing at the moment. So it's, you export a whole team over. Of course, once it's in your target org, you can edit that team and get rid of distributors. But really the purpose of this feature is to aid your sandbox to production or move one org as it is to another org. There's a question around rollback. Can rollback of an upgrade be initiated? Salesforce doesn't allow rollback of upgrades, unfortunately. So, but it's well tested and it's out there with customers at the moment with no reported problems. And one final question just before we move to the wrap up. Does the assignment have to be the same, or can you assign the opportunity to a different owner from the account owner? So this is about the object sync again. And at the moment, assignment has to be the same as the owner of the parent. So yeah, if you assign that account to a certain team member, then the objects will follow to the same team member. You can, of course, still distribute the work of those different object types independently with different distributors, but with object sync, it's tied to the same user. Okay. So there's a question, one last question around, are there plans to add more features to the shift planning function? Absolutely. I can't go into the details of exactly what, but you know, the shift planner is first release in Impala, and we continue to take feedback about the improvements that customers would like. So if you do have any improvements, please do let us know on any of the features. Okay, so I'm going to wrap up the Q&A there and just move on to our final poll. So once again, this is a really simple one, and I'm going to put the poll on screen and then read it out for those watching the recording. So the question here is a simple one. Which new features are you most keen to explore? And there was Shift Planner, the Team Manager permission set, Object Sync, and the export import of teams. So I will give you 10 or 15 more seconds just to get those final votes in. It's really interesting for us to see which features you're likely to explore next. Obviously, a lot of work goes into development of these features from our product and engineering teams, so it's really nice to see which ones catch your attention. Okay, so I'm going to end the poll in 5 seconds. And there we go. So the winner there was the export import of teams. Obviously some good practices in moving from sandbox to production within the people on the call. So well done to all of you. But then the other 3 options have got a fair distribution almost like round robin between the other 3 options. All got some interest there. Okay. So hopefully you've learned a little bit about the great new features our product and engineering teams have been working on over the past months. We've seen features to make managing teams easier with the new permission set and the shift planner for setting your team's working hours in advance. We've seen a way to automate assignment of related objects through Object Sync, which will hopefully simplify things for teams that need that. And finally, we saw the new export and import functionality, allowing you to streamline your sandbox to production process. And as we saw in the poll, that was quite a popular one. We also saw the new UI of our product moving across all of the tabs and screens, with just a few more to pick up in the next release. So there's 3 main steps that I'd like to point you towards and leave you with. First of all, whether you've already installed or are waiting for a quiet week after the holidays, I'd encourage you to check out the release notes on our knowledge base and simply go to help.nc-squared.com/Impala. And there you can read detailed release notes on all the features you've seen today, as well as a full guide to the update procedure. Next up, if you are ready to update, you simply need to go to the Distribution Engine App Exchange listing and hit the Get It Now button. Finally, as a reminder, we'll start pushing the new release to customers who haven't yet upgraded in the week commencing January the 15th. If you'd prefer us to push to your org on a different date, or if you have any other questions, please email us on support@nc-squared.com. And all that remains for me to say is a big thank you for your time today and also for being our customers. We really appreciate it. So from Faisal and I, we hope you have a happy and a restful holiday, whatever you're celebrating. Thank you very much.
Thanks, everybody.